What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
Now Miguel.
This is part 2 of our revisiting of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise as a part of our Oktoberfest event. In this video, we are talking our top 3 moments from one of the greatest sequels of all time, in my personal opinion. A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge from 1985.
Dun, dun, dun.
Listen, I think this movie is... It took me a while. I think what always kind of held me up with part 2 is that the rules are slightly different. Like Freddy, which, again, we talked about this at the end of the previous video, of the Elm Street 1 video, but the rules kind of changed a little bit from part 1 to part 2, and they'll change again from part 2 to part 3, and again from part 4 to part 5, and then again from part 5 to Bugs, but I mean to Freddy's Dead. So, it's just, this franchise is always kind of like doing its own thing. I feel like every director was like, how can we make it new? Which you should do to an extent, but it feels kind of messy. I'm gonna be honest. It really
seems
does.
The continuity of the rules do seem to cause a bit of a issue for a lot of fans. But I think, pushing rules aside, I think that at least with this film, considering that Dave McCrae is not a writer in this one, I think this is probably one of the films that I thoroughly thought was really strong for a sequel. That being said, and especially considering what we received in regards of Freddy and the horror and the effects and the erotica, like, I thought that this film alone was probably one of the better sequels to this franchise.
Dave is a pretty big supporter of this.
I'm not just talking about the amount of male butts that we see in this film. So, I think it's 2 or 3.
People kind of make fun of it for being a gay movie or having like the gay undertones, and even
it is 100% the gayest
and if you
horror film ever. And I think a lot of fans are aware of that. So let's not beat around the bush.
Right.
I think even though and I think it's hilarious that this movie passed during the Reagan era, which is hilarious, at least on my part. So,
well, I think it is, like, if you go back and watch Never Hike Alone, I mean, a lot of the cast members were... See, it's weird. Some of the cast members and some of the crew members and things like that, people who worked on it during the production, were like, we had no idea that's what we were doing. We were just making the movie. And then other people were like, come on. We knew what it was. Like, let's just be honest. I think Mark Patton knew, too. You know what I mean? Who is an openly gay individual. Love the guy.
Well, I think at the time...
I think I'm friends with him on Facebook.
I think at the time, Patton wasn't... He had not came out of the closet just yet.
I don't believe he had when they filmed this.
I mean, by all means, if it helped him come out, then more the merrier. I am not hating this film. Matter of fact, I actually love this film more, considering the fact that it played upon those undertones. Which, if I'm not mistaken, one of my more memorable moments is on my list. Is just one of those moments. So.
Yeah, this kind of actually plays into the first one on my list of my top 3 moments is, in respect to the gay thing. I don't know if this film helped Mark Patton come out. I don't know. I'm not 100% positive on that, and I don't want to speak to him. But I think this, as you said, this came out in a time when being openly gay was not okay. That was not a societal norm. And, for someone who was going through that would have been a really difficult thing, a difficult part of your personality to suppress, And I think that is what makes this movie so good. People kind of not make fun of it, but it's kind of like, oh, that's the gay one. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of that going on. And of the Elm Street franchise, or of, 80s slashers or something like that. But I think it works with the concept
and you know what?
What it was trying to do, because, and this is my very first moment, is Freddy and Jesse's first solo interaction by the stairs. And it's not a super long scene. It's not a super it's not like we get all kinds of plot from it, but Freddy represents something. Freddy represents that piece of you that knows the truth, but that you can't say it, you know? And there's just this idea of it feels so violating. It's such a violating idea that,
Hmm.
Freddy knows that. Obviously, if he is inside of Jesse and he's possessing, I guess you would say, Jesse
Well,
throughout
yeah,
this
I think
film.
at this
Like,
point, like we don't really know how Freddy came to being around
right,
this time, but we know that he chose Jesse for the
right.
specific reason of what's it called?
He's
Taking
got
over,
something to hide, and
he's taking over his
yeah,
body.
right.
And I think the where the quote, like you got the body, I got the brains. Like
Yeah, yeah,
one of my
yeah.
favorite scenes, in this film, because it just felt so
That's
violating
the
in that
scene I'm
point in
talking
time.
about.
Yeah, like
It,
it's definitely
it's
a better scene.
it's violating because I don't know that Jesse even, because Jesse's still trying to pursue I forget what her name is. I always forget her name. It's
Oh, I
gonna
forgot to Sally.
I forget. No, it's not Sally. I don't remember what her name is. But he's still trying to pursue the chick, and I don't even know that Jesse has fully admitted it to himself yet,
Hmm.
and or he could be it could be a number of
Oh, it's
things,
Lisa.
right? Lisa, that's what it is, Lisa.
Mhm.
But Jesse's still pursuing Lisa. Like maybe it's something that Jesse hasn't even really thought about with himself. You know what I mean? He hasn't even really wrestled with it. So the idea that Freddy is invading your mind and has full access to that information to use against you, that's very
Mhm.
violating. Like that's a very
Yeah.
violating thought. And when he says you've got the body, I got the brains, he sees Freddy stealing the glove from the where Nancy's mom had it hidden, the boiler in the bottom of the in the basement, and he goes around to go get his dad, and he turns around and Freddy's standing there. And the way that Freddy takes the glove when he's like, we've got important work to do, you and me, and stuff like that. um he's taking the blades of the glove and like running it all along his face and things like that. It feels very grody.
Oh
Like
man, I wasn't even looking at you when you made that sound.
it's very like sexually themed, and I know,
It's very
I believe
promiscuous.
Robert Englund has said this. I think it might be in Never Sleep Again, but Robert Englund said originally they had written in that scene where Freddy takes one of the knives and like slowly moves it in and out of Jesse's mouth like a blowjob or something.
So-
And Robert Englund, like I think Mark Patton and Robert Englund were both like, I'm not doing that. Like, nope, like that's too violent. Like even for two actors playing two different characters, like that's too violating. Like that's too much. So they ended up, I think he just kind of rubs it around his mouth and around his cheeks. It's just
Mhm.
like it feels so violating. And then we see the scene like. I love the way Freddy looks in this movie. We've talked about this. We talked about it in our deep dive on Purely and Simply Evil. If you want to go back to our Elm Street 2 episode, he looks wet. He looks very just nasty. He's got this witchy look. The nose is kind of extended. The ears have a weird look.
Mhm.
The burns look very visceral. It's less
He
pepperoni
seemed
pizza splotchy and more
he seemed more like a
just,
demon
yes, very
than
slimy,
anything. Yeah.
very gross. Just but we see this shot in that moment by the stair where Freddy's eyes are. He's really like he's
Yeah.
looking very intently at Jesse, and just the way that whole shot looks. It just I love that moment. It feels so. It's very. It's an awful moment for Jesse, but it makes for such a tense moment for the audience member because it's like, man, he is straight up violating him in front of my face
Hmm.
in this movie, and
Hmm.
it's just like you feel for Jesse. I feel bad for Jesse in this movie. I really do,
I do too. I
in a
mean,
way that I
the
don't
man got.
necessarily always feel bad for characters. I really kind of feel bad for him.
I would say like I would say in regards to like Scream Queens or Scream Kings, or I guess if he wants to be considered a Scream Queen, like he's definitely one of the ones that got put through the ringer, I would say.
He did.
And for Jesse to go to this, how can I say this, metamorphic experience that he
Yeah.
gets throughout this film, where he gets more in touch with his innermost demons, and then is eventually brought back with the help of Lisa. Like, it felt very transformative for him.
Right.
And if I were to say, like, one of the second best moment that I've had was when Jesse transforms into Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, that was on my
Like
list too.
the chest burster Freddy Krueger, where he just
Yeah.
splits his body open, and it's almost like it seems just as grotesque as like an American Werewolf in
Yeah, yeah.
London. So
Yeah, it's well, and not only that, but again, Freddy is so abusive of him in this movie. Like he
mhm,
knows that, whether I've seen people make the argument that um that Jesse was attracted to Grady, or I've seen them make the argument that no, Grady was just a friend. Like either way, he cared
mhm,
about Grady. Grady was actually a good friend. I know they started out because they got in a fight playing
mhm,
baseball at school,
yeah,
but like, other than the baseball fight, they ended up being really good friends after that. Like the two of them hung out. Like, Grady was kind of the jock dude and Jesse's kind of the outcast. Like it was a cool duo. You know what I mean? They were buddies. Whether Jesse wanted more out of it or not, he cared about Grady. And the fact that they're locked in this room and Jesse knows that he can't stop Freddy from coming out of him, and Freddy's about to kill one of the people that he cares about.
yeah,
Like, that is violating.
mhm,
After he kills Grady, when his parents are trying to break in the door and you see the knives like fly through the door, and I mean, like, Brady's death is very brutal and it's very sad. But when it cuts and Freddy's gone and it's just Jesse covered in blood with the glove on, and he looks in the mirror and Freddy's like waving at him and laughing, and he's like, you son of a bitch, you killed, and he's sobbing. He's
mhm,
so sad in that moment. It's heartbreaking. Like he really, really mentally and physically tortures Jesse in
yeah,
this movie. Like I genuinely, I feel bad for him. It just, he's so abusive. Like he's mentally abusive. He's like sexually abusive with the touching thing and like the Freddy coming out of it. Like it's just, I don't know, man. It's one of the more like abusive, worst things that Freddy's done in this franchise is his
yeah,
the way because he, yes, he attacks them in their dreams, yes, he does bad things, but like this was like mental. Like he was really torturing Jesse in this movie. And yeah, Grady's death was my number 3. I'll get to my last one here in a few minutes, but just that whole body transformation scene when he finally actually like emerges from Jesse's body. It's
yeah.
man, it's wild,
Well, I
crazy.
would say if I were to mention my like other best moments, and if we're gonna keep going with the way the movie was played out, after the whole chest burster scene and the whole
Chest burster.
Lisa like fighting, and like Freddy and like Jesse finally turns into Freddy, I would say the whole pool party massacre, I would
That was
say.
my third one too.
Like that was like
Oh
this
man,
was like our third, like this is our favorite
that was
moment.
mine too.
My favorite line coming from Freddy Krueger, I
Did
would
we have
say.
all of the same ones?
I think we
The
did.
the
I
scene
think
the
that was,
scene by the stairs,
yeah,
the body transformation
body
scene, and then the
transformation, and
pool
then the
party
pool.
massacre.
Yep,
Wow,
that was
we had all
Baltimore.
3. That was
We didn't even
completely
do that.
unplanned.
Yeah,
Completely unplanned. They're so
but
good.
they are. It's really cool and so visceral. And I put as my honorable mention, because I put pool massacre as like my one of my third,
Yeah.
but I put the honorable mention had to do with the pool, and it was Freddie's most famous quotes of him being like, "You're all my children," as like the
Yeah.
fire is just blowing up
Right.
behind him, just showing like how brutal and how demonic Freddy Krueger is, because at
Yeah.
least in this film, he's not necessarily a serial killer or anything like that. He's truly like your inner demon that's just
Yeah.
coming out.
Which
And
makes that scene confusing because it's like, okay, how is he doing these? Like, again, you
yeah,
kind of gotta let go of the rules a little bit and just
yeah,
be like,
you
okay,
like at this point, like you
Freddy can
like
do some things. Like,
yeah,
he can do some things that don't make sense. Like
hmm
that is the rule
yeah.
essentially.
And I know you
Yeah.
talk about like how you like Freddy's appearance and all this, but I personally did not like the way they involved his gloves to be a part of his own hand.
I didn't like that.
That was
Yeah.
my only
That's
thing that really
yeah.
put me at odds with, is this my favorite version of Freddy Krueger's?
Yeah.
Because even with that, like if I were to accept the fact that the glove, like the knives are a part of his actual fingers, I think this definitely sets this film apart from the others, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
I truly put this film apart from Nightmare on Elm Street and Dream Warriors. Like I really do. Like this film has nothing to do with the Nancy storyline.
Right.
And I think that gives it its most like charismatic parts, because it just makes
Hmm.
this Freddy look so much different, act different, and the rules don't make no fucking sense. Like
Yeah.
it is 100% a bad dream. It is a hour and a half or 90
Hmm.
minutes of a bad dream all
Yeah.
wrapped up in one. So yeah, when it came to the pool massacre, like I think what was the kill count here? Was it was it like
I
eight
don't
or I think it
remember.
was 8 or 9, maybe even 10?
It was more than the first one.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
had quite
So
a
it
few more
was
than the first one, especially when you count the pool party thing. Like
yeah.
the thing that I love about the pool party sequence is, like because he's attacked Lisa and things like that at this point.
Hmm.
Jesse's changed again into Freddy, and they're fighting in the house and things, and he bites her leg when he jumps out of the sliding glass window. Things start happening at the party, like the hot dogs are bursting, and they're like, oh, cut it out, like, it's teenagers being teenagers, and then all the beers and the sodas start bursting,
Hmm.
and then the pool starts boiling, like the build up into him springboarding out of the pool, and everybody running around, and people are getting trampled, and he's cutting people away and throwing trays of stuff. Like it's like Freddy on an all-out rampage in
Yeah.
that moment, which is
Which we don't
something we
really
don't
get.
typically
Yeah.
see, because Freddy is a very he's like a
One-on-one
cat.
type of killer.
Yes, he's a very intimate. He wants he
Hmm.
wants to make you scared. You know what I mean? That's why he attacks you in your dreams, is because you're in a vulnerable place where he can pick on you and torture you and things. But to see him in that setting where he's just cutting people away, is really cool. And I love the moment when he's finally, like, things kind of calm down for a second. Everybody's trying to climb up, and the fences are, like, I don't know if you'd say electrified or what. Something happens
It was
when
a
they touch
force
the
field or
fence,
something of that nature. Yeah.
something like that. And the guy's like, "Whoa, man, okay, hey, like, I want to help you.
Which props to that
It's
dude.
all
Can you
okay."
imagine seeing something
I
like
know,
that,
right?
like, and just saying like,
Yeah.
I can reason with them.
Yeah, somebody's got a bunch of razor blades strapped to their hand, and you're like, "Hold on, I want to help you." But he's like, hold on, man, hold on, man. And Freddy goes, "Help yourself, fucker," whatever. And then he like swipes him away. Like, it's so
Probably one
cool.
of the more
Like,
weaker deaths, if that I could call that a death.
him swiping his chest or
Him
whatever.
swiping, no, him swiping the guy who was reasoning with him, just threw him. Like you don't really, you can't really tell if he died. All you know is that
Oh, he
like he just
died.
swiped him and he threw him like onto the grill, and like he just
Yeah.
burst in flames.
Well, and then Lisa's dad runs out, and his like, thup, 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 and he's half naked with the shotgun,
Hmm.
and Freddy walks straight through the fence. That's it.
Yeah.
I will say that as much as I love this movie, first of all, the crazy thing about it is I know we had the same top 3 moments or whatever. I could have named 3 more. I could name
I
9
really
more
could have
about
too.
this
I
movie.
could have.
There's so many things
Yeah.
about this movie that I genuinely do like. I mean, everything from Jesse wrestling with the sexuality, to the Freddy moments in the dreams, to
The attacking
the
flaming
scenes
bird.
with Lisa. Yeah, the bird, like weird stuff like that. I think he has some really cool scenes with Lisa, and I think she's somebody he actually does intimately care about.
Hmm.
him going to the gay bar when he's kind of lost in the middle of the film, and again, that's like him like am I facing this right now? Like there's so many good things about the movie, but I will say the and after the pool party, it's it's whatever. When she goes to the boiler room and we see the dogs that are all like, "Oh," like whatever, like it. I'm not big about the very end of this film. Now I like when they're on the school bus or whatever and it drives off into the desert, like you think it's over and his hand pops out of the chick behind Jesse and Lisa. Like, I'm not talking about that, but the boiler room stuff where it's all like, I love you, Lisa, don't take it. Like, it's too long of them being like, I love you, I love you, Jesse's gone. Like, it's too much like arguing back and forth of like, I love you not, I love you, I die. It's just, it takes too long. And then by the time Jesse comes out of Freddy and like Freddy burns up and crumbles away, it's just like, okay, that could have been done in a completely different way, you know.
Have
so
you
that's
noticed
really
how
the
like
only
every single
low
third
point
act
of the film.
Have you noticed though that every single like third act of Nightmare on Elm Street, like all of them just seem really wacky. Like they just lit the script on fire and they were like, let it burn.
I could see that.
Yeah. Like, but I mean, again, I think that's just what gives the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise its charm, honestly. Like it dispenses with a lot of reality at that point because, like, I mean, what are we dealing with here? A demonic man who attacks you in your dreams. Like,
I think they suffered from the same thing that the writers of Halloween 5 suffered from, which they were like, where do we go? Like, I don't think they ever knew where they were gonna go. They were just like, especially when we get to 4. I started 4 the other day and I was like, what is this? Like, it feels like, how did we get here from all of the other places that we've been? But I love this movie. If I'd go back and forth on what day you asked me, but I could very easily put this movie above the first one. I really could. I mean, that's a hard choice, but I love Elm Street 2 a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that camp, considering that Elm Street 2 is just so far written from, you know, the franchise with Nancy. Yeah. So I mean, and again, it's almost as if like, you know, it's almost as if like, you know, Halloween 3, like it's so far removed from Halloween that I found it very refreshing.
Right.
To watch, and it's just one of those cult classics that I like to enjoy within the franchise itself. So
it makes you wonder if they would have taken that approach to the rest of the Elm Street sequels and just done like random stories that aren't necessarily related. I think that's what makes part 4 such a big drop, because like part 1 and 2 and 3 are kind of like okay, and then we get to part 4 for me, and this franchise just like whoop, and it's like we really drop in quality. I mean, just
4 was baby
I don't even
know.
No,
4 wasn't baby.
4 and 5 are a blur. I don't know. 4 and 5. Dream Master and Dream Child are a big blur to me. I don't know, but I love part 2. Next up, Dream Warriors. We will get there in our next video. Please comment down below. Let us know your 3 favorite moments from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. We adore this movie as we adore the first one. Dream Warriors is... I go back and forth on Dream Warriors. I really do.
It's still up there for me.
It's up there, but that's a story for another video. So, hey, listen, we're in the middle of our Oktoberfest event. We are taking a look at the entire Elm Street franchise, the entire Halloween franchise, plus a whole bunch more films scattered through in there, in addition to all of our other Oktoberfest content as well. And we're talking all of our favorite moments. This is our horror highlights year. So we're talking our highlights from all those films. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You've got the notification bell clicked and all of that stuff so that you're up to date. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at LTM Podcast KY. Be sure to join. Look at the bottom of your screen right there, the Let's Talk Movies YouTube channel -- community cage on community page, whatever. We might have a community cage too. I don't know. We'll see about that. We're looking into it. We don't know. We're looking into it. But thank you so much for joining. Be sure to leave it a like, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.